So let's start the meeting. I call the meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Is that what you have, Suzanne? And public comment. Is there anybody on the phone line? Hello? Karen, did you want to say anything, or are you just here to kind of monitor?
I'm here.
Yeah, I may ask you a question later because I've got kind of a curious.
Okay.
But let's move on to the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes for the November meeting?
I will move.
Second?
For the meeting.
I'll second.
Dan seconds. Are there any comments, any corrections required or anything?
No, I didn't see any.
Shall we move to adopt the minutes?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Aye.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? All set. Thank you. As far as open space business goes, we need to come up with our 2024 meeting schedule. I guess I would ask everybody, is this day and this time still work for everybody's schedule?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't run over, because once a month, you know, if it goes beyond 7, I have to leave.
Right. Well, hopefully it shows. We've got it. We're meeting from 5 to 7.
Okay.
We'll try to be succinct. How about everybody else? Is the time okay for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the other thing, too, I looked at the bylaws. It's nothing in the bylaws. Basically, our schedule can be set however we choose to frame it. We've always skipped August, but do we still want to do that? I think that the thought was that people would be traveling in August. As it turned out, I think a lot of people were traveling in September this year.
July and September, I think, were harder to schedule.
What are your thoughts on all of that on August? Should we?
My good feeling is if we have business to do, if you schedule it, we could do business. You can always cancel it.
Yes.
Because the rules change if you have a special meeting. So that if we did need a special meeting, the rules change about when it has to be noticed and what you can put on the agenda. You can only have one item on the agenda. So my gut feeling would be to just schedule it, and if no one's here, we don't have a quorum, you cancel it.
I think that's a great point, Mike. For the Gateway Commission, we're following the same FOI rules that we do. We schedule a year in advance, and if there's not business, whatever, as Michael said, it's easier to cancel it than to try to schedule a special meeting, which constrains you in terms of your agenda and so forth. So I would say let's go for a 12-month schedule and just see how it goes.
I think most of the other commissions,
Pardon?
historically, most of the other commissions don't have August meetings. So it's up to you, but I think
that's up to me. It's up to me. It's up to us.
Well, so that's why it evolved to that.
There are commissions that do meet in August. Again, it's our choice actually, because I don't see anything anywhere that compels us to take August off. Fred, we're talking about next year's schedule.
Sure.
And if this day and time works for people, and we're also talking about in the past we've never scheduled a meeting in August, but perhaps scheduling a meeting in August. Michael had the thought that if you schedule a meeting, it's easier to cancel it than to try to hold a special meeting if you have particular business to do.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I think it gives us some flexibility.
Yeah.
Yep. I remember the Wetlands Commission didn't have a December meeting.
Yeah.
So
the Harbor Management didn't have a December meeting, and the Planning Commission wasn't supposed to meet in December, but they had a special meeting, which I attended as my first meeting, and I was the quorum maker. Which was scary.
So should we vote, or should we just? Okay. So I move that we set a 2024 schedule to meet on the second Wednesday of each month at 5 o'clock. Location to be determined, and that we do that for 12 months. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
The only, what was I going to say? It doesn't matter, I forgot it.
Is there any discussion?
I think it sounds solid.
Yeah. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Okay. I would just mention that we had a bit of a mix-up here today, in that I thought we could take this system and move it upstairs to meet in that mezzanine room, but this seems to be kind of bolted underneath the table, and we couldn't take it out.
Wow.
And the senior folks very kindly agreed to move upstairs. But if we prefer the mezzanine room, I think we can book that for 2024. And I kind of think it's a easier room for this size group to meet in. Do most of you all agree?
Yeah.
And
I do.
I met with...
But will there be?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to mention. Yeah, but
Okay.
I met with Martha, and she's very much eager to have all the meetings hybrid and recorded, and she's going to arrange, I think fairly soon, to have this kind of infrastructure put upstairs too, so we can have columns up there.
That's great. Yeah.
In fact, she mentioned, I forgot what town it was, Chester or Deep River, as a system that she quite likes that has video and audio. So.
Yeah, the other thing is I think the schedules are really kind of set up based on when everybody else is meeting, so I think changing the day and the time could be, certainly the day, I bet you would be difficult, because Wetlands has a day. I mean, I know planning is like the second Thursday, harbor management is the second Tuesday.
Right, coordinating all that, yeah.
So that we
I
would
think,
goof everything up if we selected another day.
and the boards, generally speaking, also stick to a Monday, Thursday schedule. I don't think there are many that meet on a Friday. So okay, so we'll go ahead with that. And Ann, if you could send or include the 2024 schedule with the minutes, and we'll post that on the website.
Okay.
Moving on to...
Probably has to go to the town clerk, too. She
Yeah,
has to
well,
officially...
The minutes.
Yeah, she gets the
Okay,
minutes,
yeah.
and she'll get
She'll
this
post
as well. Moving on to land steward issues. Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about what's going on?
I think we knew, most of you knew that we lost Alex. I think we circulated that. Alex, our newest land steward, accepted a full-time position at a land trust in northern Connecticut. I'm not sure which land trust, but there are a number of them, at least in the Northwest, that are fairly large. So I don't even know that he did a cycle after we had planned kind of 2 tours, and now it would be balanced and split between 2 land stewards. So we're going to have to, well, I talked to Greg, and we decided, well, we had Nancy, we would offer it to Nancy because she was interested, apply. That's how we found her, and she's helping us on other stuff. So I talked to her last...
Nancy that works on the...
Nancy Merrick.
The drone.
Yeah, nice.
And I talked to her, and she said she wanted to consider it, and it turns out she got a full-time job with the Nature Conservancy in Massachusetts, starting January 1st, which is good for her and bad for us. So I'm thinking we still have two possibly, certainly one good candidate that's available. He was I'm forgetting his name, Greg. But
James Fazzino was the surveyor?
He was a surveyor, so...
He is working as a surveyor.
We're thinking, just go down the list of people that we thought were qualified, offer it to them. If they don't, if obviously circumstances are changing with all of them, if they're not interested, we would have to advertise again. So
do we still want to hire 2 more people? I mean, that would give us
I don't think we would hire 2.
just one.
I think Peter I think can probably do all the trail work, and so we have to decide how much additional work we would offer the two of them together if we hire another one. One of the things that I liked about Nancy, and as it happens, one of the things she's going to be doing for the Nature Conservancy is forest management. And I thought with her background, she could have given us some advice and been involved in that. One of the things that I would like to do in this coming year, Amanda kind of started doing some research last year, or this present year, last spring, was identifying, for example, all our small properties and finding out where they are, just seeing what they look like, putting a sign on each one and so forth. And Ann had mentioned that Jim Pizzino might be, with his background as a surveyor, might be good at doing something like that. So, and he mentioned that when he interviewed with us, because when you're surveying, when there's a lot of brush or whatever, he's got a lot of experience hacking his way through brush and whatever, taking a sight line. So he's got experience in using chainsaws and tools as well.
Mm-hmm.
He was the third candidate on the list.
He was the third. We interviewed, I think, 4, and we probably had about 4 other people that were interested. We interviewed 5 people, actually, and we had another 4 or so that were interested. But at that point, we knew we had some good candidates, and we just wanted to get going with that. So,
well, the other thing seems that Peter is going to be present more, where the reason we even started looking for a second land steward was because he was spending a significant time in Florida, but it appears that has changed.
and he seems to be looking for work. He told me when I last saw him that he's working part-time for, I think, UPS as a driver over the holiday season, so it seems like he would want to adopt ours. The other thing, too, is just in terms of our protection, knock on wood, I hope nothing happens to anybody, but Peter did get hurt, and he was sidelined for a good period of time there, and with one person, if that person is unavailable, whatever the situation may be that would prevent them from working for a while, then we're kind of at a loss. So I think it's good to have a backup, even if Jim.
Well, even if we were to jump in, there are so many things as volunteers that we can't do.
That's right.
That it makes it difficult.
Yep. Okay.
What else has been happening? I mean, I don't know if I have Peter's report for November. Basically, things were looking good except for Bartholomew, which is flooded, where we know it's flooded. And that's probably one of the next projects that we would kind of really need to look at and figure out what to do there. I was waiting for my permission to open the file, and then I got busy today, so I didn't look at the drone
videos that Nancy took.
But I'm thinking I kind of like to walk and look too. I don't know if you could see stuff from the drone video. Apparently there is a beaver dam that might be influencing the water levels, but I don't know. But
Does he own the mezzanine? Doesn't mean upstairs?
The issue with, I have to apologize for that. I had not used Google Drive before, so I was unfamiliar with it. And when I shared the links to you, I guess you all needed permission. Her videos were quite large. They were 25 gigabytes apiece, which is way more than I could distribute via email.
Get my little laptop.
I got it on my phone.
Yeah.
But it was difficult to see under the, even with the leaves off the trees, it's difficult to see through the canopy, and I wasn't sure how to slow it down.
Yeah, that made a difference. The video just buzzed across the land so quickly. It was really hard to follow what was going on. You've slowed it down quite a bit. It does look like, I can't judge the distance at all from the video, but it does look like there's barrier right across the whole waterway, upstream from the road. And it looks, I would suspect that it's a dam.
Yeah, I tried to, last year or the year before, whenever it was, I tried to go up by kayak and to see if there was a dam, and I was stymied by fallen trees, and you just can't get up there, get up high enough. So somehow we have to walk around it.
Well, when we installed the, remember when we were out there with Mike Callahan installing the beaver deceiver, he walked up there and said there was a beaver dam there, and then we noticed the amount of water where the trail is that needs to be repaired had been reduced, and we saw when we were doing walks this summer, the canopy had opened up, which indicated that the beavers were there.
Yeah.
I'm concerned that that beaver deceiver that we had installed and have had replaced is not working properly, because every summer Public Works has to come and take out all the muck and everything. And
well, my thought is, excuse me, Amanda, if there is in fact a dam up there, that would be kind of a double need to call Mike Callahan to have him repair.
Actually, our policy we adopted a couple of years ago when we did the beavers and whatever on Ames was that if it's not affecting anybody, we were going to leave the beaver dams alone, and it might be good if we didn't have a deceiver there, because then there would be less water coming out. The question is if it would impact property on the other side of ours, and I think that would be a question to the landowner, but
on the other side of
Bartholomew.
Which is what would be on the other side other than the train track?
Well, there's property there that's owned by somebody that did a subdivision a couple of years ago.
Huh.
Remember?
Beyond the road to the, what's the road to the left?
Behind Bartholomew. And we'd had a question a number of years ago about the property line and his cows and everything.
Oh, but that...
Yes, but that
would.
But that would affect their property. That would be the only reason I would think if it adversely affected them that we would consider a beaver deceiver. But otherwise, beavers are just like on Ames, just doing what they do.
Yeah, let it be.
But I'm more concerned about why that one in front isn't working, because every time Ed goes in there from Public Works, he keeps trying. The second time is very nice and kept that beaver deceiver there. It's not flowing like it should, and they're guaranteed. So I would think a visit and then ask Mike Callahan, because that's what he did the first time he checked it.
What do we do to fix this? Because it's obviously not doing what it's supposed to.
I was thinking if we had Mike Callahan come down. Excuse me. And see if we could get Ed over at Public Works, because Ed was in there with hand rakes, with equipment, pulling the muck. I mean, it was muck. It was solid. And then the two of them could kind of work through this thing. Maybe we need a different type of beaver deceiver.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, but it seems the first thing is to fix that one, because that's backing everything up, and that would affect the trail over there first rather than the beaver deceiver or the beaver dam in the back.
I have the impression that's been cleaned out a couple times now.
Well,
that spot.
Yes,
right?
but we had originally it plugged up and went over the road, and Ed came and says you got to do something about it. So we had Evan and I went down. We had Mike Callahan, and we bought a beaver deceiver, and they're guaranteed. Yeah. So then the next spring we had the same problem again. Ed went in there, ripped out the beaver deceiver. He didn't know. He was just trying to unplug the culvert. And so then we called Mike Callahan and told him. He says, well, they're guaranteed. So he came down and installed it again. Well, the next year, this summer, it did the same thing again. So I'm thinking that Mike and Ed ought to get together, because Ed is head of Public Works, and he'd have an idea where it's jamming up, and maybe they could devise one that would actually work.
Yeah, because It should be maintenance-free after.
It should be, because the one in Jimmy's Pond is maintenance-free.
Oh, yeah.
If you put a beaver deceiver at that dam, would that make the habitat inhospitable for a beaver, or would they still be able to live in that pond that remains?
No, the point of the beaver deceiver is to...
Drain the pond?
No.
Regulate the
Is to
height.
regulate the height.
Yeah.
So that it accommodates the habitat needs of the beaver, but it doesn't allow the beavers to raise the level
Right.
beyond that. I mean, if there are 2 or 3 feet of water in the beaver pond, the beavers can have a lodge, and they can get in the lodge underwater, which is where how they enter and exit the lodge. So it's simply a way of allowing the beavers to have a home and still regulate the water level so it doesn't impact the people who have invaded the beaver's habitat.
But now the water is down on the trail because of the beaver dam. And I think when the water is rising, it's because...
What do you mean the water's down on the trail?
Well, this summer the water was down, but then when the culvert by the roadway got blocked, that's when that culvert's blocking water going through, which is backing up down the trail. So that's where
I think we need to...
deceiver, and it's going to allow more water, and your trail is going to be, like we talked about, putting that, basically, a bridge, because you're going to have to start way back.
Oh, yeah.
I think the trail, I think the beavers had, the fact that the bridge washed out and the water level rose, I think is a factor of the large amount of rain we had this fall. And I think that's why it rose. I'd be in favor of having Mike Callahan come in there and look at the whole thing, and I would suspect that beaver dam is probably raising the water where that bridge is located as well. It's hard to tell how all that hydrologic system is connected, but...
Well, it's too bad, because there used to be access to the roadway that parallels the railroad tracks. Tim Griswold and I used to go in the back of the Bartholomew property when the Bartholomew's owned it, before it was town property, to cut firewood. And you could drive a truck all the way to the Bartholomew property. Now there's no access road anymore.
No, it's all overgrown. No.
It's all overgrown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been like 30 years.
I've tried to get back there on foot along the railroad track, and you just can't get in there.
You might be able to go the opposite way and go Cedar Holler and take a right there.
Yeah. Go up to the ridge and go down.
And go to there.
Yeah, toward the...
Because that road, and I think there's a little walkway or something we could ask a homeowner.
I don't think the beavers are going to be able to back up the water to...
Yeah, I think that's a lot of money for something they may not... But Mike Callahan would be the expert.
Yeah.
Yeah, get him down and say, but I would get Ed, I would see if you could get Ed from Public Works, because he could explain better why it's not working at the culvert, and then maybe help everything out.
So who will follow up if that's the plan of action with Mike and Ed?
I would like to go in there. Peter Norris has expressed an interest, as has Evan. Maybe Mike a few of us can go in there and just see what we can find from walking around. See how those waterways connect, if they do, or whatever.
Yeah.
Better put your waders on.
Do I need waders?
You need waders.
Contact Callahan.
Yeah.
And at the least, he'll have him look at what's by the roadway and see the PSV. We have a sense of where that water system goes, if there's a connection. Is there... what's the source of that water? Is it coming from...
There's a wetland. There's a lot of wetland along the railroad tracks, and then it rises in the rear, where Macnick has his...
Tinker Pond is there, that subdivision, Tinker Pond. Remember all the big wetlands there on the right side of Mile Creek going down to the Macnick property?
Oh.
That's all Tinker Pond. And then there's brooks that are feeding in up from Mile Creek, Browns Lane, coming down there. It's a major wetland,
Yeah.
so I don't think you'd want to, disturb.
No.
And there's not much there to
Yeah.
worry about flooding.
I don't know that we need to decide what we're going to do. Let's get Callahan in there. He'll be on site to fix the thing at the roadway, and maybe he can take a look at the other thing and give us some advice.
And so we'll schedule a meeting just among ourselves to take a look at it?
Yes.
And then get in touch with Callahan?
Pardon?
And then get in touch with Callahan?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing that it reminds me, if we do want to do something with the trail to raise it, we've got the wood kind of on McCulloch who is it?
Jim Mildrum.
Jim Mildrum
Yeah.
owns, that's kind of out in the weather, that we should talk to him about and see if we could move it under the shelf, if it's decent and could be used for, slightly elevated walking trails over these little wet areas.
Do
See if
have a
we
way
could
to
save
contact
some
Jim?
of that and then pay him for some of
He's
that.
not doing well.
Pardon?
He's not doing well, so I haven't bothered.
Yeah. Well, Peter's asked me this multiple times too, just to talk to him, to just get a sense if he'd be willing to sell some of his lumber.
I think the best way to reach him is talk to Wayne. You want to call Wayne, because Wayne
And Wayne would deal with Jim?
Yeah, I think so, and Wayne has a way to get the wood out. I
Yeah,
don't
that
know.
was the other thing. How do we get it out of there? Because it's a walk into the area, but you need a truck to.
He's got his.
There are ways to get it out
equipment
with
to
Wayne.
The thing, if you take it out though, where do you put it?
Well, that's what I'm thinking. There's a shelter there.
Well, I'm not sure the condition of that shelter. I think you need to.
It's better than leaving the wood out in the rain.
No, but the sawmill is gone.
Yep.
So at some point, it may become a hazard. So I think it's something you just, but I'm not sure that wood, and Evan and I talked about it, and I think with Jim over at the site, that's a big expanse. You almost need to do a foundation with like big, huge beams that he doesn't have there. He has slices of wood. You need to do, we talked about, I don't think it's called pounding, but you put those.
What are you talking about now, Bartholomew?
Bartholomew. Because the water, you're going to have to, it's going to be like 50, 60 feet long.
This was just, there
this
is
is
wood
just-
there. We might be able to use smaller bits of it elsewhere, but we aren't going to have any of it if it just deteriorates. It's oak, so it's not deteriorating.
I'm not even sure.
Yeah, beyond that though, I mean, I did find your file on Bartholomew. I just gave it to Michael. That's a bridge we'll have to look at separately, but there are other uses for the wood as well. Peter wrote to me. It might be a project for the high school kids like we did previously at Ames. So he said there's a wet spot on Ames that is always wet, and people are starting to go around it, and the area's kind of widening. That's the kind of thing you could lay, basically like we did last time, where we laid the wood down when we had the environmental club do that maybe a year ago.
Well, the other thing is that I still have locust logs that are, this size. Probably would be a foot or more above the. If you laid the logs on the ground and then spike boards to it, it would raise it at least a foot.
Well, you'd have to figure out how much does it flood? Raising it a foot if it's flooding 2 feet.
Yeah, that's not going to work.
Doesn't work. Or we could consider just moving the trail upland, if there's a way to do that.
Wayne has vehicles, and Wayne knows Jim.
So
And
that's probably
Jim
fine.
can tell Wayne, this is
Yeah.
my wood, or this is, so then he could do all that. And that's why I was
I'll
thinking
call Wayne and just see if he has
and see.
willing and able to touch base with Jim on.
Yeah, to find out the ownership, because I think that one of the property owners is taking some of that wood too. So I think title, if you're concerned about title of the wood, might be, whose is it?
Wasn't Jim's sawmill on town, it's now town property?
It was, and he was allowed to have it, but not allowed to replace it, but that was his lumber.
No, I understand that.
So that's what the question is, whose lumber is it first?
I would think it's his, which is why we're discussing
Yeah.
buying it rather than just taking it.
Well, that's why I think, but Wayne could, and then Wayne could say, what do you want? And then he's got the truck and he can get it out.
We'll do that, so.
Yeah.
So that's a second visit to just see what's there. I did see some 4x4 posts that would be good for signs.
Yeah.
And they're oak. I mean, those will outlive all of us if we put
Well,
them.
your locust ones would be good for signs
Good.
too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that'd be,
But the locust ones aren't milled like the 4x4 posts. They're big logs.
And there was a lot of, it looked like, 2x8 would be perfect for, little wet spots if
Oh,
they
yeah.
weren't very big.
Yeah.
Especially if you put them on a 4x4.
So how much lumber is there?
There's a
Odds and ends,
significant
it's kind of scattered all over.
Yeah, that's why you need sort of an assessment, and then if it's worth saving, and Jim agrees, we could either buy it from him, and then I think at least temporarily store it under this shelter, which, would be, if we raised
Which
it, so
shelter are you talking about?
Where the old sawmill
where the
was?
old sawmill was.
Oh, that was, yeah.
Yeah, because
But
there's,
it's-
none of the sawmill equipment is there anymore.
No, he sold it, but that wood is very heavy too.
Yeah, well, that's,
Okay,
And Wayne has those skids, that you can pull, things like that.
We should move on.
Yep.
Ann, Ferry Landing.
Okay, so I sent out an update.
Very good. Nice
Thank you. And I also emailed everybody the excerpt from the grant report. I don't know if anybody had any questions about the work that the consultants have been doing lately. I know I do. We've just been kind of in a race to the finish line to get the work completed and in order to comply with our grant requirements. But I think now we have this opportunity to really parse it and sift through it and decide what we want to do with it, how it applies both to Ferry Landing and potentially to similar endeavors at our other properties. So yeah, that was exciting right up to the last minute practically.
did you get your bills, hopefully?
We have our invoices,
Thank you.
but I did visit Tracy in finance to talk about, first of all, I was hoping for a, year-to-date to sort of give me an idea of whether we still had any money left in the grant account, which according to she wasn't able to give me anything because they only do that at the end of the month. But, and they only do it by the calendar year, so it would have only have been for this
So
month.
did she not have one for the end of November, Ann?
She did, and that's what I got.
Couple there.
But, in any case, the way I see it from the printouts that I have had from her since the beginning of this year, we're actually over, which is great. We will have, I don't know, I have some questions. There's some things that are labeled as payroll that are a number that doesn't make sense for a payroll check that I don't think is good. So I'm not sure what those are, and I may need to talk with her a little bit about them, but I'm not really sure, I'm not really sure exactly how detailed they need a budget statement to be for the grant, and maybe Greg, you and I could talk about that.
Yeah, yes, we'll get into it a little later, but our budget for the next fiscal year is due on the 22nd of this month, and I'll talk about that later in the meeting. Does this include, you allude in your report to work in the spring about additional drone flights or Chris Mangle's visits?
So, the deal that we made with Nancy Merrick was that she billed us for seasonal two flights, one in the fall and one in the spring. So yes, it includes her drone flight in the spring. It does not include any further work from Chris Mangles, just what he's delivered so far.
What, you say here that you've been provided by Mangles with a draft report. Is that something that we can see at some point?
Sure. Well, we gave him some feedback, and he is hopefully going to be delivering the final report, which I would be happy to share with everybody.
Yeah,
that should definitely be shared
Nancy
with
Merrick
everybody.
still owes us by Friday her management recommendation. So it's still coming in, but unfortunately, the invoice urgency came first.
Yeah.
And
I think Ann had some thoughts on how it was structured and so forth, that she wanted some edits.
Yeah, which is fine. I think he was already underway to make many of those, editorial changes. But I think overall it provided the information we needed. He was nice. I asked if we could have his inventory in an Excel format so that we could integrate it with what we have already. So again, this is going to be part of, now that we have this stuff, how do we want to use it? How do we, store it and record it, if you will, for practical access or use going forward. So that's pretty much it.
I wanted to ask one other question. I haven't looked at the maps as closely as I hope to, but I have to tell you that's not my area of knowledge. And you had talked about you and perhaps Michael meeting with Nancy to kind of parse what she did. Have you done that, or is that something you hope to do?
No. Mike did talk with Nancy about the maps. I can let you elaborate on that if you want to. What we're thinking is if we want to use what she has created to update the town GIS, then we would want to meet with the person that you were nice enough, Greg, to coordinate with and see what that would be like. So that's, I think pretty much.
Yeah. And these are property maps, or what are these, vegetation maps?
They're layers of various, like soils, geology, wetland delineation.
Yeah, she was having problems with, and I should have recognized this, I haven't done GIS in a while, but the state layers and things are at a significantly different scale than the town GIS. And so, for example, she has the bedrock geology layer from the state, and the whole 7 acres is just one, probably something, a gneiss. I'm sure it's a metamorphic gneiss.
Yeah.
Whatever one it is. She didn't give me a scale. I didn't look at the legend to find, and I even couldn't tell the color. I'd have to look at what was online. So that she had the concept, but she, I don't think her skill level was what we would need going forward, and I just had someone flag the wetlands on my property because I may be applying for a bridge, a little bridge to go across what I call Boggy Old Brook in the future. But he easily generated a map of my property with the property boundaries. He was just a soil scientist, right? And he used what's available at the state level, and he has an aerial photo with topography that's very nice. And I know he's not that sophisticated, so. And then I talked to my expert in my house. Probably could do it for us.
Oh, really?
She says, "Oh, you just need that? I can easily get the layers and stick it on," because the state has all the property boundaries.
Right.
So once you have the property boundary and they're coincided with their maps and layers, we would have that. So
so what we do have from her that was you know, unique or whatever, was created for us.
Excuse me.
Was the, you know, the aerial photography.
Yep.
And the orthomosaic files that will be generated from that. And again, this is all stuff that I really need to kind of assess how best to use and, you know, get.
She also categorized and had the appropriate sections of a lot of historical maps and aerial photos, which was, you know, in part, she did what we asked for her to do. I don't know that her skill level was, what I had in mind is more complex, I think, and getting it to the town, you know, available. We don't need it available to all the public at this stage. We just need it for us.
Yeah.
Well, I think we have these reports now, so we'll just
Yes.
evaluate and see how we want to go forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did she have access to the aerial photographs going back to the 1930s?
Whatever the state has digitally online.
Okay.
Yeah, she did.
Because those are very useful. I used those back in 1975.
I'm almost, and I mean, they probably have done this at the Land Trust symposium that they have annually. I'm sure they have a workshop on how to use state resources that are online.
Yeah.
And I might talk to, you know, because that would be a critical skill for one, you know, maybe it's Denise, but I would like to just say, okay, yeah, this is some, you need like a coach.
Right.
This is where you go, this is, you know, where all the layers are, and this is how you put them together, and then, you know, you can print it as a PDF. Now, this, you know, I mean, and it was easy for Ferry Landing because it's small, so you get it at a fairly large scale. When you're dealing with something like McCulloch, we might have to do it in sections or something to look like McCulloch North, McCulloch South, because the scale is going to get, you know, reduce the value of some of the data.
Yeah.
Because it's so much of a bigger property to print it, you know, unless the town has, you know, an 11 by 17 printer or something, so that we could. I guess we could go to Staples though. If we have the file, and you know, we could probably print it.
Printed that out over there.
Yeah.
Falls Road.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know that we could get larger maps.
Well, if you're interested in doing McCulloch, Dave McCulloch was a geologist and has all of the history and all that on McCulloch. So you might think about contacting him via that.
So, you know, just the wrap up of the, it was nice to hear from Chris Vagos, who reached out to give me a plant list, which is lovely. Maybe we can continue to cultivate her and get her to help out. Very nice to have some acorns planted. Thank you, Fred.
See if they germinate.
Yep. And
I have
Not yet. The story.
well, future funding
Unfortunately.
I love
is
chestnuts.
not line again to CFIT now, are we?
not immediately.
You plant them, but they won't grow.
In January, so
How's the one on McCulloch?
I'd like to
It's hanging in there.
about
That's it. They usually grow for, you know,
very
4 or 5 years, 6 years.
specific project
Find some.
to them.
So,
Very-
blight hasn't arrived yet.
Because in your report, you mentioned
Some make
filmage.
probably 30 years, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
wildlife,
Yeah.
It's kind of hit or miss.
or at
Keep
the
up with it.
future, I guess it was.
Right, we have it, and what do we do there? We're still,
Yeah.
that's been
That's
an
perfect.
ongoing issue, and Greg has on the agenda later that we can talk about data storage, which is part of the issue with sharing those video files with somebody who can work with them. You know, and there's ways around it, but, you know, we have our hands full with some other things.
Well, I think it's important for the Open Space Commission properties to have some sort of baseline. I mean, I don't think we've been acquiring property for years, but we've never had any kind of data collection for a baseline inventory of any of our properties.
It's a big job.
Yeah.
It is, but this is sort of a model. I mean, if this is successful and we can, on a smaller property, do it and learn how to do it and how much does it cost, then we could, you know, start to budget maybe some of the smaller properties first, or, we decide that, or you do properties in sections.
I mean, my impression with open space has been basically to leave things alone and leave nature to itself. So it's nice to have the inventory. I mean, except for the Ferry Road now.
But we've also,
Unless you want to start doing the inventory, then that implies maybe doing a little management down the road, which maybe we should consider.
well, I think,
Where it's also, material that can be used to, get funding for something that we might need to do, whether it's,
I mean, I see it in the case of Ferry because we're trying to replace those invasives. There's a real need there.
Right.
I think
Anyway.
I think CLCC, what I'm gathering is that CLCC is their winter meeting, which is, when is that? Do you know?
March, it's going to be in March.
No, that's their
that's
annual
the-
meeting in March. It's in January.
There's a January.
The focus is on for land trust's potential management for carbon storage. And so that is going to involve some manipulation, some forest management.
I mean, so do you advocate planting seedlings in our forests?
Well, either planting seedlings or thinning forests and to allow the bigger trees to grow faster than they are.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a general question I've had. We haven't really discussed this before since I've been here, but just, again, I had the impression of leaving our lands to be on their own, which I'm not necessarily for either, but there may be a point where you want to go in and manage something.
Yeah.
So one area is where we have these fairly large beach stands where the beach are dying.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's a case where invasives like to take advantage of that, and maybe we want to get in there and...
Or even just mapping those areas.
Well, so
we know
understanding where they are. I mean, they're predicting that these beech trees will die, as we all know, I think, in 2 or 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
And maybe we want to get in there and plant native trees before the invasives arrive.
Right.
Anyway, so something to keep in mind for the future.
I'm sorry I had to step out. That was a call from my veterinarian. We have
Oh,
a field
did you get
cat.
that
So, two points I would make from when I left the discussion is that I talked to the tax assessor, and she's basically consumed with compiling the grand list, which has to be done by the end of January. And she by I don't know, by law or ordinance, whatever, she's prohibited from doing any changes to the GIS until that's completed. But she said that she'd be happy to work with us in February, March. At the end of March, she has to give the changes to the vendor if we want to do any changes to the town GIS, and we can meet and talk about that beforehand. She had talked to Amanda last year about maybe putting trails on the GIS or whatever, so that's something we can talk about. And the other thing I wanted to mention is I got the latest CLCC newsletter. I don't know if you all got it, but I will send it around. And it talked about a number of different funding opportunities. So I get so many different invitations to conferences or whatever, but I think there was one coming up. It might have been CLCC 2 talking about funding opportunities. And I'll share that with everybody too, so we can maybe look to continue your work at Ferry Landing with another grant. Do you have these? I know you were on the board. Does the Community Foundation tend to do grant continuation of project grants, or does they prefer like a one-time thing? If Ann were to ask for another grant to continue this?
I think that's a possibility. Some grants are over a 2 or 3 year period of time, and you presented it initially as a multi-year project. So you were laying the groundwork, and you only asked for the first year. So I think you would have a good chance to, in continuation, this is a grant built and based on this, but it's now extending to the second level. So I think it would be considered a viable. It's not like one and you're done, but it's also not like I'm going to be sapping you for 12 years.
Well, and the lesson, the big takeaway in many ways, for me anyway, was the idea that you can ask for money, but sometimes you don't know how you'll be able to spend it, or if you'll be able to spend it on the things you thought you would be able to spend it on. For instance, when it would make sense for the Community Foundation's perspective to ask them, if you were going to ask for anything, to fund the internship position, which is, this year was great and very effective. Last year, not so much. And so it's a crapshoot, whether you're going to get somebody that can really run with it and be productive. So that's a little tenuous for me. But I'd love to put my mind to thinking about some other sort of discrete aspects of the project that we could put a price tag on and be reasonably sure that we have access to the means to spend that money.
I'll send some stuff to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we have more management of Atlantis to do, certainly on the site. Chris Mangels suggested it'd be really nice to do a springtime, plant survey. Because they're just a whole different, they're kind of late in the summer. Those two things would be valuable themselves. And it's interesting to see what they're going to tell us about, okay, now that we've kind of stunted a lot of Atlantis.
Right.
What's going to happen? Are we just going to get invasive city?
Yeah.
I don't know. And we may need money to deal with that. I mean, this is a learning,
Yep.
And so I think there's a good story that we can tell to the foundation about what we've done. All these small grants with profits, NCOs.
So
It's tough getting.
Stories to tell. I don't know if people prefer to read it in digital form, but if you do want a printed copy, I just excerpted the final report stuff that makes sense to
I
get
can
feedback
look at it
on.
digitally.
The rest is kind of easy. Okay.
And
I don't know if it has it, but if
And are you set with that, or do you want me to look at it again?
if you could look at the digital version that I sent.
I will do that,
absolutely.
yeah. I should have time tomorrow.
I have a couple of housekeeping items at the end of the series of questions that I have to work on tomorrow and Thursday and Friday.
Yeah.
And then just as a quick update, we have been talking with One Look Signs about getting a sign for Ferry Landing. And I also have been working on this kind of informational notice to put up at the kiosk that we installed, so that if people, come onto the property, the first sign they'll see is going to say, it's a wildlife refuge and there are no trails. Please respect that this property is reserved for wildlife.
Lots of ticks.
But if they keep going, but if they keep going, this tells them a little bit more, and there's a QR code for them to get more information on the website. So
Okay.
thank you to Greg for helping put that together.
Are we set to move on?
We are set.
Michael?
I hadn't had the chance to read through the section about the project being less successful than you hoped. What do you think contributed to that? And I just want to say, I think you took a high road, because initially when we were writing the grants, it was midnight, and there was a lot of back and forth with DEBA, Mitchell College, and
No, it's Three Rivers.
Three Rivers, excuse me, and extended promises and partnerships and possibilities and collaboration, and that she would do this and that we would do that. And it was a little bit overpromised and ambitious, with the idea of just kind of dotting I's and crossing T's, of meeting certain grant criteria. And but I guess a lesson learned is be thoughtful as to how and who you could collaborate with, in the name of diversity or
Community outreach.
community outreach.
Yeah. No, it has to be manageable. And so that's my concern going forward with any funding work. But please also, just one last pitch, if you could look at the end of my report, there's a list of things for next year, and just sort of cogitate on that, and if you have any thoughts about them.
Michael, would you like to talk about our activity over the last couple of weeks at
Our hopefully ending headache. We had 2 successful fence installation work days. The first one really tired us out. Public Works worked with us for putting in 28 holes, which could have been a little farther apart, but we were lucky they all got into the ground because it's so rocky in places there. And we had volunteers from both Harbor Management the first day, quite a few people from Harbor Management actually, the first day, as well as our folks. And then we had a small work day Saturday and finished the fence. Again, we had one key member of the Harbor Management Commission, Mike McGee, who was invaluable actually for helping us adjust the rails so the fence could be fitted together. There wasn't a Harbor Management Commission meeting this week, but I'm led to believe that they're close to submitting an application for the dock. I'm not sure what dock consultant they're using, but
Isn't that something they would be passing by us or no?
Well, that's a good question. I'm going to get to that in just a second.
Yeah. I've been sort of going through my purgatory going to their meetings, but they've kind of adopted me, sort of. They tolerate me, I guess, probably the right word. But some of the people are actually, you build relationships together. A few of them are a little kind of excitable, I'll say, and not really focused on the project that needs to be done, but the other members were quite helpful at installing the fence and stuff, and I think continuing to work with them, will be okay. But I don't think the dock location is going to change much from what their discussions with DEEP is, but they're kind of in the application design phase of what it's going to look like and getting it to the point that
Do you know what that looks like?
Well, conceptually, yes. The width and stuff were on early documents, but I haven't seen any details yet. But neither have they. They haven't. Nothing has been discussed or shown at their meeting yet. So,
I would like to. I have a couple things I want to bring up. One of which is that. At a meeting that Tim attended, Amanda brought a survey by Dick Gates, and she had outlined one proposed path for the fence, which would kind of come at an angle, go around the boulder, and then go along her fence line. What we eventually did was run the line across the fence line, and we talked about basically not going from that boulder to the roadway because we get into the 40-foot right-of-way and it would be an easy place to end it. I understand that it's been expressed to the first select person that the fencing decision was not something that was discussed between both commissions, and there was a question why it didn't run all the way to the right-of-way. So we will be talking about that in the future. And that kind of brings up the whole issue, I think, that we need to kind of also clarify again, and perhaps we can do this in the meeting, in terms of who's responsible for what. It was my impression, maybe from Tim's memo, that open space would kind of have some purview with the upland area, and Harbor Management would have the responsibility for putting the dock and so forth.
Not some purview, all the purview.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah.
it would be our decision and not a group decision.
Yes.
So we will talk about that in the future. Mike and I have been asked to attend the meeting. Would you like to attend that meeting as well, Fred?
Sure, if I'm around.
Okay.
Is this going to be a public meeting?
Sounds like it's going to be, I don't know. I was just told that there will be a meeting scheduled.
And will you be discussing the items that are located in the right-of-way that were going to be moved?
Yes, well, that's the other thing I was going to get to. I have a checklist of things here. As far as the fence goes, we have the fence up. Let me ask you a question, because I don't recall exactly, but do we talk about putting small signs on the fence, reiterating to stay off the marsh, or was the fence going to be sufficient?
I didn't think there were going to be.
I don't remember it.
Okay.
I don't recall signs on.
Okay, that's fine, so we can move on. Michael also talked to the first select person, and she was amenable to having some type of public ceremony announcing the opening, maybe after the first of the year. You had the conversation. You want to relay that, Michael?
Yeah, I thought it would be nice to have some sort of, after what we've gone through for almost a year, some sort of official ceremony with probably the past first selectman and the present first selectman and both boards and commissions to have some sort of event that just says, we're 50% of the way through, we're waiting for the dock as the next piece. And, whatever, they've got to do some sort of design on where, how they get to the dock, what that is. There's some proposal when we see a plan. Martha was interested in doing that. I'm interested in doing that.
It seems to me it's
We never added on our other stuff, Ames or McCullough.
no.
Because it's a joint project.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a unique property, and we can maybe talk about that when we meet with her, and we'll have chairs from each commission.
It would make more sense to have some sort of a ceremony when the project is finished.
That would make sense to me.
When the dock is approved or not.
Well, I'm sure there's going to be, an opportunity to comment on the deep application.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to have to go, I would assume that the application has to be signed by the first select person, and, because I don't think the Harbor Management Commission can make the application. That has to come from.
Are they going to have a public hearing?
DEEP doesn't do that unless you get a petition together with 25 signatures within a certain period of time of the posting of the legal notice.
But if there's no note, it will be the illegal notice in the newspaper?
It should be. Yeah, it should be. I'm not sure which paper, but I've petitioned lots of things to DEEP hearings. They don't like it. Now, the problem is they'll probably have the hearing at 10 o'clock in the morning in Hartford.
Yeah.
That's the bad news.
I didn't see where there was any way on the DEEP website to find out about any, but they haven't applied yet? Is that the concern?
You can ask DEEP to put you on a list of all the coastal applications that they get. I used to be on that list and was overwhelmed with, back in the days of paper. But now it should be all digital. You should be able to see, it's probably digital. You probably can just go into some site and see the application.
I didn't see it on DEEP's.
I would call the Long Island Sound section, whatever they're called now. But there should be a way to see what applications are pending and what notices have been published. Because otherwise you're sort of, I don't get a local, I wouldn't even know they could put it in the day.
I've seen them in the day.
Okay,
Several
so
of the day.
Yeah.
And I don't know that they're supposed to, in the old days, they used to have to it was posted on the town clerk's bulletin board in the town where the activity
Or the
was.
town's website a lot of times.
Yeah, so I don't know if the town has a bulletin board where they post, applications by state agencies. I don't know.
Well,
I just haven't been doing that for a long period
In
of time.
terms of your
yeah.
party that you mentioned, or...
It wouldn't be, it was just a ceremony.
Well,
Yeah.
ceremony, I would tend to agree that it should wait to the end of this event, after the bridge, because between now and the bridge being accepted, approved, and discussed, I think it's a long road, and I think it's been mentioned in Tim's reports about this collaboration and our working with the harbor management, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to add, I appreciate the gesture, but I don't think it rises to the occasion of a gathering like that, and we have a ways to go. And the other thing I'd like to add is, not to make this more complicated, but I think we have to consider doing something with the parking area
Yes.
as well.
So that
is also...
that was the next thing. Thank you, Fred.
Because,
moving along. Amanda was, excuse me, Fred. Amanda was kind enough to share a survey with us, and clearly both parking areas extrude to some extent into the 40-foot right-of-way, and they need to be moved so that you not.
It's the town survey that you all paid for.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
fair enough. But the other
it's
thing
your
is,
service.
we may need to lay down some gravel or something like that too in that parking area.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
parking
So
there.
that I was going to say that's the next step for us to do.
Well,
that's the
We.
one thing, Amanda?
Coastal Area Management.
Yeah, and we've talked about,
You have to apply to put that in.
Well-
did we consult with the other commission about the fence and so forth? We have the rocks that were put in there without any notice to us. And I'm particularly concerned about the rock in the one roadway, because I think that could be an obstruction if we ever need an emergency crew to go down there, or someone that needs care in the river or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, you were told to put the fence up, so that where you got to decide.
What's that?
The consensus at the meetings was that Open Space was going to put the fence up.
yes.
So that was your decision where to put the fence up. So
Yes.
that's like crying after the fact.
Yeah.
I was curious about some signage in the 40-foot right-of-way. You had sent me a picture of
Yes,
the sign, because there are instances I had recently where people are parking there. And first of all, on the right side, that's Black Hall Country Club property. And the 40-foot right-of-way is not to be blocked. And I couldn't get a hold of anybody, so I ended up calling the police, and they made a move. But
Well, I would think on the town property, within our 40-foot right-of-way, parking can be allowed.
no, your attorney said that you cannot block the right-of-way.
Yeah.
That's what Ed could
Yes,
Well, I would say
I think Amanda's correct. And I think,
permanently,
Yes, it's
Yeah.
a right-of-way. You can't block it. It's a roadway.
but look at streets. The paved surface is 22 feet wide.
Yeah,
The right-of-way is 50.
I'd rather just not litigate this and just say that's a DMZ, for lack of a better term. One of the reasons that, thank you for bringing up, I did share a sign that I saw from Maine. One of the reasons that we didn't extend the fence all the way is we talked about putting that sign up when we were looking to doing that, Amanda. And we're in our second hour, and we need to move along. The last thing I wanted to mention is maybe we could get your advice, Evan. When we were putting the fence, it's been noted several times there's a dead pine tree, and some people were concerned it might be a hazard if it were to fall over or shed some branches. If you follow the trail, it's maybe...
Yeah, but it's going to be where the access to the dock is.
So that would be my question. If it's in the roadway and it's going to be taken down as part of the construction of the roadway, then I think we can probably wait until that goes through.
We should wait to see where the road, because there's going to be a turnaround.
Well, if you follow the pathway, near the beginning of the fence, moving away from that roadway that goes down, near the beginning of the fence, if you look inland, you'll see it's a quite large dead pine.
Dead pine tree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they are,
It's been expressed to me
For the most part,
multiple times that it's a danger.
if it is threatening the trails, then maybe
It could fall on the trail.
Yeah.
maybe it should be dropped.
And we could be
Yeah.
waiting,
Well, if we
a year and a half to
if you
2
can take a
years
look
for
at
the
it and
dock.
tell me what you think.
Yeah.
If we drop that, Evan, I guess my thought was, how much do we have to take down if we just come down to like 15 feet and leave that stump there? If it's going to come out anyway, just take out whatever part might fall and just leave the debris on the ground.
There, or just drop it on the ground and leave it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, when we did the Barbizon, we topped it
mhm.
and left it up for habitat. That's been our policy in the past.
Yeah, right.
Habitat for,
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's an oak. This is a pine.
there are a lot of,
Somebody's gonna like it.
well, whatever.
Well, anyway,
We're gonna do
that's, yeah, I don't want
I wouldn't allow
to
it.
dawdle on that.
It'll go in a splash.
You can't burn it.
Okay. Moving along to other open space issues. I talked to Dick Gates, who is a surveyor, and he said he is exceptionally busy, but he said he would find time in the coming week to take a look at where the frontage for the notice open space what's on Boggy Hole Road. And I mentioned to him Evan's idea that there might be A2 surveys or surveys from the two homes inland, and he's going to see if he can do that.
It appears on the town map
Yeah.
that there are meets and bounds that are listed on the map.
Yeah. I walked that whole section of road. I didn't see any pipes or mere stones or anything.
No, they're probably, I mean, it's an old enough subdivision that it's probably those, whatever pipes or mere stones would be buried at this point, either in vegetation or soil.
Yeah.
And you'd need somebody like Dick to relocate them.
So he's going to go out there and put a couple stakes in for us, and then we can mark them, and then we can have Mike bought posts for signs for noise and for Calkins, and we'll use the beautiful signs that Andrea obtained for us and have them installed and kind of move along.
The one for which one?
The
did you buy?
noise open space and for the Calkins Road.
I have an 8-foot post, if I didn't give it to
Okay.
Evan or Mike already for that.
I think it may be in our barn.
And you're in barn for the.
Okay, then we have an extra one.
So we'll need signs for Ann's sign, posts for Ann's sign as well. So we will make use of that. And as far as Calkins Road goes, everything's been taken out of there. Public Works did a great job. They said a neighbor actually towed the dock to the state launch site, and Public Works was able to break it apart, so everything is out of there.
Terrific.
And Public Works put one of their, what do you call them, Mike? One of their big pebbles right in the middle of the walkway.
A classic boulder in the
Potato?
trail.
To put a potato down there?
An Italian potato.
So when we put up our sign, we should be all set with that
So it's
property.
blocking the trail.
And the sign's up, you said?
Not yet, because we just bought the posts were just delivered.
And
Wait, which post?
he got
8 foot 4 by 4 inch.
For the Calkins sign? I have a sign, I bought a stake for that.
Okay.
I think I brought them all in.
we shall use them, Andrea. We shall use them all.
I have the signs.
She's going to need to.
All right, just saying.
Yeah. So getting back to noise quickly. I have been talking with Lisa Nicolai about trying to break that section out on the map. And one of the issues is on the GIS on our town sites, it shows Sheep's Ledge as being noise property, and that is not correct. Melinda said she was going to look to see if she has an older shape file. I mentioned that she's been tied up, the tax assessor, tied up with doing the grand list, but she said she was going to try to sneak in a little time and look for that for me. So maybe we can move along on that as well. And Michael put up a What is your, what was
Stay
the sign? Stay out from under the Barbizon today?
Yes, and it was the easiest post hole I've ever dug in my life.
Well, you're an expert now after very...
It was, let's just say, when I got down to 24 inches, there was a little water. It was, yes. Well, the thing is, if you're familiar with Barbizon Oak, the red trail kind of comes to almost a 90 and then goes back into the property.
Yeah.
And so there's water coming down that red trail, which we're going to have to address, maybe with some of the wood from McCulloch, ultimately, if that's what we do, or else relocate it. But then there's a low spot that's got wetland vegetation in it. So
Nice.
one of my organic posts from the site. But yeah, if all post holes were that deep, I could put in the 100 yards of fencing myself.
You know what it looks like.
Yeah, I know what it looks like. I took a picture. But getting back to the Barbizon, there are 2 limbs that really hang over the trail, which I think we should trim.
If you go out, you can see the bark.
One's really rotten.
behind it.
It's going to come down. And even relocating the trail, which is going to be difficult because there's a stone wall there.
So here's a picture of
There's actually drainage.
Mike, could you identify which branches you're talking about? The ones on...
Yeah, the 2 to the right.
The ones on
The 2 to the right.
Yeah, okay.
Because those are the 2 that hang over the trail.
Yeah.
You've seen that.
So I think what it's...
We can budget for it.
We don't need to budget for it. We have money. I think the tree companies are looking for work. I got
they're desperate.
3 emails in the last 2 weeks from Wilcox and Yankee and Middlesex Tree saying, you know, good time to prune your trees while they're dormant.
Yeah, well, I had an interesting conversation, sort of off the cuff with John Yankee. He lives out on Whippoorwill Road, and
He does a lot for the land trust.
he said that you know, he does risk assessment on trees in people's yards and what needs, and he said it's worth cutting the branches because oak trees disintegrate in stages, and so that you have a branch this long, and the first thing to fall off is a piece that long. And the chances of somebody being there, standing under that piece is very small. Okay. So the risk is very low.
But one of those branches, if you look at it, the biggest, thickest one that actually leans over, doesn't look like it's in great shape. It looks like if you had a screwdriver, you could push it in. The lower, smaller branch looks much more stable.
Yeah.
And I would agree. But the bigger one, we probably should just look at it.
Yeah.
I'm nervous about the bigger one, just because the bark is off and it looks...
We can see if we can have one company, if it seems prudent to do something with the pine on Horseneck Creek, we can maybe have one company do both of them.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. The last thing we need to do on Champlain North, and maybe we can get that. Maybe Andrea, better half can give us some advice on how he did it on Ames, but we need to put in the nice Barbizon sign we bought, and I consider that to be a priority. Do you know, did Fred help put up the 2 signs on Ames, Andrea?
Fred?
And did he use, I'm particularly interested if he used any concrete or anything.
Yes, Peter and I put in, I believe we put in concrete.
Okay.
Do you use that Quikrete? That's what I usually, Quikrete?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what, yeah.
So Peter was there, maybe Peter and a couple of us can put that sign in. So if you could put that on Peter's to-do list, Michael.
Okay, so this is
the nice display Barbizon sign.
Okay.
So...
how many posts do we need for that? I'm not that familiar with it.
No, we have a post that comes with it.
Okay.
We have a metal aluminum post, so we just need to secure that in the ground somehow.
Okay.
That's what we were talking about, a little bit of Quikrete or something we put in the ground.
What's your time frame on that? I mean, it's been...
Before the
Tonight
ground
it's going 24.
Before the ground freezes.
It's going to be in the up to 50 Friday and Saturday this week. Just a thought.
Yeah, and if you have an idea of where you want to put it,
Yeah.
I think back from the soggy, I wanted to get the sign that I put up today
Yeah.
in a position where people could read it when they're walking on the trail and
We could probably do it.
not
this
under the
weekend.
tree.
I was I don't know, I would welcome any suggestions. I was wondering if it might be nice to put it up by the bench so we can have it, that you can sit at the bench and kind of see the sign there as opposed
But I
to
was
close
just
to the
thinking
tree.
that if you
That's
had
very
it,
nice.
yeah, between the bench and the trail,
Yeah.
you could keep it out of the trail, which is wet, as you
Yes.
have found. And,
We had 4 inches of rain in my neighborhood, so
oh, yeah, no, it was.
everything was wet.
And so people could sit down and look at the sign and read it.
And is the other sign the anthill one?
Yes,
That's thank you.
which is
That's
going to
up?
go on another natural post.
Is that up, Mike? They're up. The anthills are up.
Ah, there you go. Good.
Yeah, those have been up for a while.
Okay, moving
Do
on.
we want to do that this weekend? Or, I don't know, the we, you could be Fred, myself, and Peter? Or did you want to go look at it at the location, or?
I would say, do it.
I would be available
Yeah, I could be.
Saturday morning, Andrea, or Sunday, either day.
I think
Sunday's raining.
Pardon?
Sunday's raining.
Saturday morning, I think.
Friday and Saturday.
Unfortunately, I'll be out of town, so.
9:30? Late in the day.
Later, let it warm up a little.
It's going to be 9:30?
9:30 on Saturday, Andrea?
Yeah, get it done, and
It works for me.
it's not going to take long. I mean,
Works for me. I'll get the sign and do you have the poster, do I?
We used to, but it was a friend, so we didn't, it's not ours.
What's that?
We don't have a post,
Hole digger.
No, I'm
I have a
not talking about post hole digger. I mean the actual post for the sign.
I'm not sure that.
maybe in your garage, too, in your shed,
in the
barn?
It's possible. I'll look in the morning.
I know the sign itself is in the basement here. I don't recall
Certified now as a
if I put the post on there too or not.
I'll put it in the alleys.
And I'll
I'll
check
take it
too.
I'll stop by tomorrow and check.
Okay.
Certainly getting the rocks out of the hole.
Yeah. Okay, so as I mentioned, our budget for next year is due on the 22nd. I think, I don't see any reason to ask for a large increase. We seem to have sufficient funds to do what we're doing with the current thing. And the Phragmites project is funded through the next fiscal year. So we're covered with that. But if anybody has any projects they would like the commission to consider, whatever, let me know, and we can see if we can fit it in our budget or ask for specific appropriation for those projects.
Well, the bridge, whether we get Jim's Wood or not,
Yeah.
if Peter Norris was mentioning the bridge on
Bartholomew.
Ames.
Ames,
Yeah.
it would need to be
Yeah.
measured, and in the past we have gotten the wood from Jim, but I don't know when we would get it or what the condition is and the...
I would like to do as much of that work as we can this fiscal year because we were able to carry over some of our stewardship funds with the expectation that we need them to complete Horseneck Creek, and Michael is such a good purchasing officer that we spent less on the fence than I expected we'd spend. And we put it in ourselves, which also I think saved quite a bit of money as opposed to having a fencing company put it in.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure.
I had a nice introductory conversation with Martha Shoemaker, and one of the things I mentioned to her is that we really have a need for record storage, and she is very familiar with that. She is going to push to come up with some type of digital storage system for boards and commissions. In fact, she's already started to do that. I understand land use is purging a lot of their old files and going through, and she gave me the name of this one company that she thought might do scanning. They didn't, but we have some funds to maybe hire someone. She's looking perhaps at hiring someone to do a lot of scanning for all the town commissions, because we're all basically in the same boat. So I think that's something that will definitely move forward in the future, which will be really beneficial to us. And I was going back and forth with Tom Meyer, and Tom managed to come up with a 3-drawer, not fireproof, but a 3-drawer legal-size file cabinet in the basement.
I thought it was letter size.
We had letter size, it didn't work. We swapped it for legal. And I managed to move all of Amanda's boxes to the basement after looking through them. And I put together a little inventory of what the files are, which I'll share with all of you. So if anybody needs a file, show what we have down there. And I think a lot of what we have, we could probably digitize a lot of that too with scanning. So I'm hopeful that we can move along with that. The other thing I wanted to mention too is I want to take the opportunity when winter's coming to really go through the Open Space website. I think it could use
some freshening up.
Absolutely some freshening up. We still have a number of glitches on there. A lot of the QR codes on the maps don't work. The organization that the company that migrated from the old to the new used really doesn't make sense. We have a lot of duplication in this. If anybody wants to look at the website and say, hey, why do we have this or why do we have that, I think that would be great.
Apropos to that, I was, I think of Ames and looking at the educational site, because there are no QR codes on the kiosk or the signs. But when you go to the Ames, it says, return to the home page, we're sorry, but this is not a web page, matching your entry.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we definitely need some fixes. And the nice thing is Martha said that she would, when we have our changes all set to go, she would talk to Katie Block and set aside like a half a day or 2/3 of a day for me to work just with Katie and go through it and make all the changes. So she's been terrific to work with so far.
Yeah.
So I think that will be a big benefit to us.
One of the things that I noticed, Greg, on our trails and the trails that are on the maps that we hand out, not all the trails are on those maps.
Yeah.
Did someone, GPS those trail locations, make a layer, and then, so that's how it got to...
The map creation all predated me. Was it Mike Kiernan that did that, or how do we get that
Mike
data?
and I did McCulloch, but before that, Lisa,
But that's probably...
our map maker, did, because she had all that code and she did it.
So that she walks with...
She was one of our original land stewards.
Yeah.
And so she made all of that, and she does our map making now. She's got all the shape files for all that.
Because I noticed that some of the trails just aren't, well, number one, some of the trails on the map aren't measured. Like what the length is, because I was trying to figure out the length of all the trails.
I don't think we have that on any of our trail maps.
It's just that I had not seen
Yeah, they just go along, it's a dotted line.
No, but it tells you the length on
At the very end.
on the
At the very,
legend.
the total length.
Yeah, but I'm saying some trails don't have any length.
I think that's just, you could talk to Lisa about that.
Yeah. So that it might exist. So we don't need to-
I think it's just something, you know, those progressed over time, and so maybe on one of our earlier ones it wasn't, but on our later ones it was added.
There are apps. I'm not, again, I'm not a GIS person. I don't know if anybody is, but when we were going to redo the Ames, it was going to be a combination Ames noise map and redo it. And we kind of ran into a roadblock because we weren't sure exactly where the Ames thing was. But Gary Gregory was kind enough to give me exact coordinates for where the two viewing areas are in Ames. And so Lisa can pop them on a map. So there's software you can use to basically...
Lisa has all the shaped files, which is what...
Yeah, but you need, if you want to do more stuff, you need feet on the ground, too.
Yeah, she has that capability.
Another issue came up when I was preparing the Rockfall Foundation grant for the Horseneck Creek project. I talked to Alicia Millardo, and she was very happy to partner with us on a future educational program to encourage birding and whatever. But she said to me, she says, you know, we can't come on the property. I says, what do you mean you can't come on the property? She says, we were told that we can't do excursions on the property because of liability. And I said, well, that's a new one on me.
We worked this out with Joe.
Yeah, with Joe Atwater, and
Yeah.
So-
I've been on an excursion, you know, owl prowl with Joe Atwater on Macau.
You know, maybe she might. Are you not working with Audubon? Is the Land Trust not allowing Audubon to do excursions, Karen? Do you recall?
I don't. They haven't since I've been there, but I haven't been there that long. I mean, I'm not even a full year yet on the board. But I know that I have, in the filing system that we have, I know I have an Audubon folder, but I've never done anything with it.
Well, Suzanne Colton Carey had said about a year ago that the Land Trust was no longer allowing Audubon on.
So
We've
so
asked
so
them.
long story. I wrote to Dick Cody, and Dick wrote back to me that this is completely different than the Tevis situation where you might...
Rich Cody,
I'm sorry. I wrote to our attorney, and he wrote back, he sees no problem with it. He says, you might want to check with the insurer. I communicated several times with Kristen Shetty, who is an underwriter for CIRMA, which is the town's insurer. She said that she didn't see any problem with it as long as the organization doing an excursion was insured and listed us as an additional insured. But she said she was going to ask her counsel for an opinion just to double check, and I'm still waiting for her to get back to me, but if she does, I think we're good to go.
Yeah.
That's
Well, the
what
other
we always have
issue-
Joe, the form they fill out, and they put their insurance, and Audubon could do it for as long as they wanted, as long as they kept the current insurance, and that was required by the Selectman's office for anybody, any group that uses any facility in town, like the Garden Club comes here, every group fills out that form to use and they've considered the open space a town facility.
Well, I will say that's one of the issues that is not easy to address in town hall, because you ask someone for an opinion and nobody's quite sure who has responsibility for something like that. So I think that we'll be, between talking to the town council and the town insurer, I think we'll have a good record, and then we can go ahead and I'd be happy to tell Alicia that we'd love to work with you and have, you know, just as long as Joe Atwater, whoever does it, fills out the form and does what you have to do, we would welcome them to do too.
But also when they advertised it, they had to say, because it was, if we charged money, so that's why they had to say when they advertised it, that the money was for Audubon,
Right.
not for us, because that's where the distinction was. that we
If
couldn't.
we accept money, we lose our statutory
Right,
liability.
so that's why the money for the fee that Audubon charged was an Audubon fee, not a town fee.
Right.
Our spaces are free.
Yeah.
That needed to be made clear.
When LYSB used our property in the summer with the kids at Rooks Meadow to do butterfly catching and just pollinator identification and just running around, they had to sign a form.
A fill out a form.
Yeah.
I know when the Lime, I think it's Nancy Hill up there, whenever she would run in the summer, walks on places, and
Wendy.
Wendy, okay, and
Wendy Hill.
and so she never consulted, and she came, but I don't think hers were, she charged, but she would advertise.
We did one ecologist hike with Maggie Jones.
Oh, yeah, Pink Placebo.
Yeah, the issue with Wendy is doing that as part of the Senior Center's program. And if seniors, she is, in essence, a representative of the Senior Center. And if they're part of town government, then she really shouldn't have to do that.
It's just that parking that day was a nightmare.
Yeah.
I worried about that more than anything.
So we're going to go on to Andrea, but I want to mention a couple issues. So I don't know if you're familiar with, I hate to put you on the spot, Karen, but I was going back and forth with Mary Devens, and she asked me if I could give her a list of where all the hikers' happy hours were held over the last couple of years. I did go back, and I think I got everything. I think there were a couple suspended for COVID, but I gave that to her, and she wrote back to me, and she said that Delantrois was looking into doing some type of weekend activity for people whose schedules didn't work during the week.
Yeah.
Do you know what that would be?
I went to an outreach meeting recently, and, we have a new volunteer that's really, she's really gung-ho. She's really got some exciting ideas, and that was one of her comments, that the hiker's happy hour is really at 5 o'clock, and anybody who works couldn't go. So she was saying, can we, let's try and do something on weekends, on weekends, and how often we want to do that, in addition to the hiker's happy hour. So that's something that we're kind of looking into.
If you want to partner with us, if you want to work on that, I would encourage Mary to contact Andrea. She's our community outreach person. It's just touch base with us and see, tell us what you're planning, and we'll see if it's something that we want to join in on. Yeah.
Are we continuing to do the hiker's happy hour? Is that something
I think we ended up really okay. I know that there were some complaints and some miscommunication regarding freshmen at the inn, but in terms of attendance or whatever, I think it was a pretty successful year.
Yeah.
We can talk again about whether we have to chip in to help the inn or what they're going to provide for that or whatever. That's a whole nother issue. But I think it would be worth looking into doing another season.
Okay.
You could check with the inn to see if they're still interested too. Yeah, maybe you want to go.
That would be Andrea's purview. And I want
Check in with
Chris and the inn.
Chris.
I was going to ask Andrea for something too, but I want to show you this to not put you on the spot. I don't know if did you see that from the Conservation Commission's minutes, and have you talked to Gary? Do you want glasses?
I know. It looks like I do.
Maybe you could just read that, Andrea.
Gary Gregory met with Lima Lime High School science teacher regarding suggesting and providing appropriate projects for seniors in need of a senior project. Bathhouses and trail maintenance were suggested. Andrea Fenton of Old Lyme Open Space will contact teacher Kate Taylor.
There you go.
Tag on it.
That was in the Conservation Commission
You're ready, Andrea.
minutes.
You have been volunteered.
Doing so well.
Thank you, Gary.
You're welcome, you're welcome to that page.
I think he is.
So, is she the new, replacing Heather?
She is not a teacher at the school, actually, but she is to my knowledge, but she is the environmental community outreach person. There's a new name that they have to their group.
Is she within the school system? Is she an employee, or?
I can't remember, I'd have to look back.
That's Karen, right?
Karen Taylor, you know her, she's on the,
Solid waste and recycling, yeah.
yeah, and she's a steward.
I was just saying, I know there were some discussions with Mary and
Yes.
part of the meeting was our stewardship,
So I don't think,
here to do with the high school, project. And I actually think that they might have done something just like last weekend. And I can't remember, they were talking, we've been talking between the high school and also, I think the middle school, and one of them are called the Eco Warriors, I think was the club, and I can't remember what the high school one was. But, there was,
high school has a more convoluted name.
yeah, I think it was the middle school that they were the Eco Warriors, and they.
Didn't we come up with a name for?
Oh, well, you call them the mighty termites.
Oh.
I'm sure that was really popular.
I think it was, they were the termites, maybe not mighty termites, the termites.
Yeah. GHT at the end.
Well, I think we would love to work with that group on projects like that, that another little walkway on Ames or whatever, Andrea. I will leave it to you to how you want to liaise with Gary and Karen and whomever.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I have another name for you too in the middle school, so Tammy Noyes. I ran into her a couple days ago, and I think she's associated with the Eco.
Is Tammy Noyes?
Tammy Noyes, yeah.
I know Tammy.
She stopped me and said, yeah, they'd be interested in doing a project, middle school.
There.
Yeah.
She's the computer technology person,
Okay.
actually, Tammy.
Yeah, but she's involved with that group now, leading that group. Yeah.
Well, part of, before I reach out, because I'm sure there could be interest, but in the past we had very specific projects, and it was easier to go and say, we have this, this, and this, and this, and then the teacher could say, great, in February, on the third Sunday in February, I'm free, we could do it here, so.
I will send you.
I think if
I will send you an image of the previous bridge that was built on Ames and what area that Peter Norris sent me an image of. So you'll have what was done in the past and where it needs to be done again.
Well, that would be.
And that would be a nice specific project.
And I'm just passing this around. I don't know what the bottom of the feature is, but it was a bridge that, just a different.
Yeah, I've got similar pictures from Maine, the land trust or
Where you
town
have
land.
different size planks. The one, sometimes the shape of the planks or the bridges are determined by the wood. And so when Jim made the bridges,
No, man, professional.
we measured the one on Ames, and he said, I'll come up with something, and he really designed the wood going this way with, and pre-drilled it.
It was interesting. We did a lot of hiking when we were in Maine.
Different.
In October, and it was interesting to see the variety of different types of bridges that were put together.
Yeah.
Several of them were, I don't know if this is the product they used, what Trex-like material they used on some of them.
At the beginning.
Others they used wood, and they looked like shingles that were put across the wood. And areas that were really wet, so that kept you from slipping.
Yeah, well, the other thing in New Zealand, we did a 3-day hike
Where they had come
and
in.
the last day was, it rained so hard that the water was over our hiking boots. And, we were just walking in the water, but we were on elevated trails, wooden trails, and they just put down chicken wire, laid flat and stapled onto the wood. And that was a non-slip surface.
I don't know how many people went on the the last Hiker's Happy Hour, the Boggy Hole one. I thought the Boy Scouts did a really neat-looking bridge on it.
Yeah, I missed that one, and that was one I donated some locust logs to that project. Gary and I took it over there.
Yeah, it was a fairly long walkway, and I think whoever, the Boy Scouts or whatever, did a great job with that. That's a model we could use too.
Yeah.
Andrea, did you have anything you wanted to discuss, or are we off?
Last year, we talked about the bikes and potentially closing the trail down at,
Ames, the Shadow Trail.
And I often come across Justin in the woods, and, we just stop and say hello, and other mountain bikers so, we took no action. So I guess it comes back to what do we want to do? Like, we never formally closed the trail on Ames.
Yep.
We never,
When you say formally close the trail, do you mean just the shadow trail?
Yeah,
the shadow trail.
Okay.
and
Nothing
some of
would-
the ones that they've just made that are not official.
And these are mainly
Sort of, yeah.
have been created by bicyclists.
Yes.
Yes, but we're not sure which one.
Right, okay.
Frankly.
Right.
And Justin, it will come to me his last name, has this great app, is in the woods all the time. He's really very keen to be like a steward and be a good citizen, and they're not looking to create crazy jumps, but more of a place to ride and be out there in the woods, which I think is a great outlet and opportunity for these kids.
Refresh my memory. Is he in the high school, or is he graduated?
He's a high schooler. He is at least a junior, if not a senior this year, but he's...
Did he present to us? Was he here?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Did he present to us?
Yeah.
Oh.
Were you at that meeting maybe?
I was, I just couldn't remember. There were a few boys around the table that time.
Yeah, okay. I think twice they came, once as a public, and then they spoke more formally, and then we had met with him, Mike and I had met with him, and we also met with another fellow in the neighborhood of Ames, on Evergreen, who brought some of these other trails to our attention, and while we were out there was a group of organized 12 older people walking on these shadow trails. So it can attract individuals walking just by chance or because it looks viable, as well as bikers. So I think we need to revisit what our thinking about that is, and
I agree. I think that not only the bicyclists, but I know that George James and Suzanne Colton Carey also told me that they've made a number of informal trails on Ames themselves for just hiking around and walking the dogs and whatever. So yeah,
There is a lot of bike activity, or some, not a lot, but some, on the yellow trail on McCulloch too. Because when Peter and I walk it, we notice it. And especially by that pond, Vipers, and it's that low point in that stream, it's very mucky, and so they put a lot of boards and cardboard and stuff like that. And so I don't know if that's maybe a place that we could use a little work for one of your crews, but it is definitely a lot.
But one of the things on Ames, and it's one of the projects that slipped with all the things that seems like had occupied us this last year, but it would be good to at least maybe have someone with a GPS if we have someone that has that capability to at least locate where all these shadow trails are first, because you might want to keep a couple.
I would go to the people who are using it. I would use Justin. I think he uses the trail. I'm not blaming him, but he is a conservation-minded young guy who's got a team of individuals. He's not the only biker. I know plenty of adult bikers residents who are using the trails, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I don't know if
I
their, trail can be downloaded digitally and used in a,
Justin's can.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you
in
send the
ArcGIS.
coordinates to Lisa, because that's what we did on McCulloch. She can take it from there.
And then I contacted a person in the, I forget it's like NIMBA acronym for the New England Mountain Biking Association, and they'd be willing to work with us and the bike clubs, just because they want to be able to share the trails in a reasonable way. We spoke with Amy Patterson, and she gave us in her experience, other people, or at least in the first blush was, yes, I think you should close down those trails or the shadow ones if there's specifically because of those that had jumps made and high rock things. But I think it's a group that we should embrace personally, and I think sharing the trails, whether it's like a designated bike area or
Well, do we have anything on our, welcome information to our trails that says anything about biking etiquette? I mean, I don't know if it's...
I don't think we allow biking on our...
no motorized vehicles.
Yeah, it says no motorized vehicles.
But
on
I
all
think,
doors.
and I think in some of our documentation in the past, we haven't allowed bikes. And so that was part of the question when we started to have bike trails. Were we going to allow bikes on our trails? So that's in the older
If it's
literature.
just for a liability,
I don't-
CYA, to just say either bikes are not allowed, or not even specific to bikes, but please do not access, please stay on the trail, and...
I think maybe it makes sense to make this a project for 2024. We can talk about policies, about the shadow trails,
Yeah, I
who
think
we can work
At
with
least,
as
on
partners and
Ames,
so forth.
and there may be situations on other
Yeah, I
parcels
would...
we're not even aware of.
I would
We
suspect
talked
that...
line-
Well, there's some of the trails, for instance, some of the older trails that George put in on Champlain South, for instance. There's some very steep trails
Yes,
which
there
are suffering from erosion because of the slope.
Yeah, they will go up and down rather than...
And we
Yeah,
had,
I mean, George,
we had changed.
I don't know what, maybe he's used to walking in the fjords of Norway and going straight up the hill.
They belay.
We had changed some of
I was
them.
going to actually mention that, though, Evan, because generally when I've gone on Champlain South from Library Lane, I see bike tracks in there. That's a common sight for people biking, too.
Yeah. Well, it's, the end of Library Lane and
Yeah.
it's easy access.
Okay. Well,
So I want to focus on the bike trails on Ames and, the shadow. We've got to sort of I think you've got to find out where they are. Because the shadow trails are a different issue than these little side trails that the bikers have I think it's easier to control those jumps and crazy things. The shadow trails are much more substantial.
I just have one note of interest. At the last meeting, I mentioned I was going to have my plow person put up driveway stakes for plowing, and you all said that was amenable to you. And my plow person has put up those stakes now, so they are there.
And they're at the edge of the right-of-way?
edge of the driveway.
They're beyond the driveway, because when you plow, you have to allow, but they have to know where the layout is.
The other thing that I think we need to talk about with this Board of Selectmen is we're going to have to maintain that driveway and work out relationships with all the property owners, how that happens.
Oh, very good.
Because we certainly have more, potholes developing. And so the town has a responsibility at least to do you know, the stretch that we own and take care of that. I'm not sure we should work out an arrangement with Blackwell too, because most of the trouble seems to be there as you're coming into the site. What's their maintenance? Do they need help? It might be just filling in the holes with gravel as they develop with Public Works, but we need to, I think it's something we can just discuss with Martha, because we're gonna add to the wear and tear on that driveway.
Well, in regards to that, thank you for bringing that up, Michael, and Amanda too. In lieu of extending the fence all the way, and also in placing the fence a bit off the property lines, we had talked about some type of agreement that we would draft. Amanda, how should we go about doing that?
Well, I think you ought to talk to Ed Casella, your attorney, because any type of agreement.
You had said that you were going to work with us on that when we talked about, for some reason the word indemnity came up. I'm not sure that's the right term.
I'm not sure either. It can't.
You had basically laid out what you thought should go in that.
I had suggested, because you can't call it an area line agreement, it's not it's a buffer line agreement. And I think it would be better for your attorney to draft it, because you put the fence up, and if need be, I could get a little survey showing where the property line is and say we'll be leaving it in its existing state. But anything like that would have to be signed by the selectmen, and it may need to go to town meeting. So it's very
Well, I think it's the abutting property owner that needs the protection, right? That's what you want to give them protection, so.
Right.
It seems
Well,
like maybe
I think
from that side.
It's on both sides. I've been told.
See, that's why I think you have to go back to your attorney.
That we want to ensure that that both people respect the property lines, and that the abutter does not plant grass or do anything on town property.
Right. Leave it, well, I would say leave it
natural.
Leave it in existing. But I think that's where to start the conversation, because
you're coming back a little bit differently than what we discussed. You had kind of said roughly what the terms were. You were going to work with us, but now you're putting it all on us.
No. So you have to start somewhere.
Right.
And since you have the attorney that's already given you the opinion on the right-of-way and things like that, and then, because I'm not an attorney, and then if you said, okay, now we put the fence up, we agreed to a buffer zone and where the fence is, what should we do? Rather than go back and forth with different attorneys, I would ask your attorney what they recommended, and then we could go from there. But
you had some language that you cited. I don't recall it, and unfortunately the meeting wasn't recorded. If you could recall what that language was and send it to me, that would be helpful.
I can
will talk to Ed Cassell about that. That would be helpful, and I'll give it to Ed.
So I'll do that.
I'll give it to Ed and go from there.
And then, but I think it needs to start with it. But I'll send what I had considered language I thought that was pretty acceptable to both parties.
That would be good. And let's go.
So I'll just send that over.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So I have 6:58. Do we have any other new business that anybody wants to bring up?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I second.
We have a second?
I second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
And have a happy holiday.
Have a happy holiday, everybody. Exactly.